Next, what are the risks that you need to concern yourself with in this market? So let's go methodically and try to understand what's going on. This is kind of a course. This is kind of a lesson of all the issues that we have in the stock market right now. Obviously, the first one is the war with Israel and Iran. What is the potential impact there? Well, what I'm thinking is obviously inflation is an impact. Is it going to be a real impact? Yes, it's going to be a real impact because the war is going and is already leading to high oil and gas prices. So the war with Israel and Iran is going to cause, hey, how you doing? Is going to cause oil prices to go up. Hey, Winston Short, how you doing? I'm back. What's up? I am back stateside for a while, and I'll be back to Europe pretty soon. But while I'm here, I wanna give my views. I want you guys to be successful. I want you to guys to understand what is going on. Okay, so some of the risks, you have Israel and you have and Iran and you have Trump. Trump is not going to do anything. Okay, so don't worry about that. If you're over there and you think, oh my God, the U.S. is not going to get involved, and you obviously, as you've seen by now, you really can't believe or listen to what Trump is talking about, right? The guy is a showman. Don't think he's a fool. I didn't say he's a fool. I say he's a showman, right? He's not doesn't policy, he doesn't make deals, he does a bunch of different things, but he does them in a way that you don't understand, which is exactly the way you should be dealing is when you do business. Okay, fine. So what are the risks? The first one is Iran and hi Susan, is Iran and Israel. You don't like Trump. Well, it's fine. I mean, you don't have to like him. The problem is the issue is right now what he's doing. For example, let's take a look at the tariffs, right? How is he doing with the tariffs? Well, you know what? Even though he hasn't made a deal, okay, so you're going to say, I don't like him. He's saying he's going to do something, he doesn't do it. And that's true. I mean, the only deal that we have is really with the UK in terms of the tariffs. But, but right now, the US is generating about $76 billion. Check it out on ChatGPT. $76 billion. And he's changed a lot of things. I know. Hopefully, we could, some of the things we could take back. But the point is, right now, the U.S. is collecting a lot of money on the tariffs, even though we don't have a deal, right? There's 81% increase in tariffs. This could be about $2 trillion over the next 10 years. So you may not like him, but the money's coming in, and that money technically could help offset the tax, the impact of the big, the big beautiful bill that he's talking about, right? Let's see what happens with that bill. And that bill, if it comes through, it's going to cost us $4 trillion, or 3.7 trillion. Now, if you believe Yale is saying that over the next 10 years, the way the tariffs are right now, you're going to you're going to bring in $2 trillion. That's not bad, right? $2 trillion. Of course, CBO is saying, nah, not 2 trillion, maybe 942 billion. Of course, everybody's saying that the CBO, which is a Congressional Business Office, might not be independent. They might be more. They might more like the Democrats and the Republican. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I want you to be informed. I want you to. You may not agree. It can help hospitals and stuff. Yes. But the point is, it might be something. It might have an impact at some point. So right now, what you want to know to be successful, in the world that you live in, wherever you are, you need to understand what's happening. So how do you know what's happening, right? How do you know? Well, you open the news and you listen. The problem is with the news, and this is why I started this channel of mine, and don't forget to subscribe. What I've learned from this channel, from this channel and from social media, is unfortunately, whenever you turn it on, they tell you what you want to hear, so that you come back and listen to it again. So if you like Trump, you're going to be in Fox. If you don't like Trump, you're going to be in CNN, right? If you like if you don't like Israel, you're not going to listen to Al Jazeera. But if you like the Arabs, you're going to, or the Muslim, and you're going to listen to Al Jazeera, right? The problem with that kind of situation Not that there's anything wrong per se with what they're saying. They're not lying to you, right? But they're just telling you one aspects of things. Like for example, for the tariffs, I was going to say, well, Trump is ridiculous. He's saying all these things about the tariffs. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, right? He didn't do anything. There was no, don't forget, there's 3 more weeks to get 100 deals approved. And he only has done 2. And you're going to say, you see, he said he was going to do it, and he's not doing anything. He's stupid. That's not true. That's not true. Even though they don't have a deal with China, they don't have a deal with the rest of the world. I mean, they don't have an actual deal with China. The only actual deal they have is with the UK. But the money is coming in nonetheless. 76% increase from last year, right? Last year they took in May they took in 6 billion of tariffs. This year in May 23. In June 7.72 billion. By 2025 they should brought in, the US is going to bring in $156 billion, which is 0.5% of GDP. These are huge numbers, people. You need to understand these numbers. That's going to improve the GDP of the country. Now, of course, you're going to say, yeah, but I don't like Trump. Therefore, that's because, you know what? The court is going to say this is not legal. No, trust me, that's not going to happen, right? I mean, he's got more power than you think in order for those tariffs to stick. So, and you want the money to come in anyway. And at the end of the day, and we'll talk about this later on, you do not want to have a budget deficit and a trade deficit together. That is not good. So let's go back to Israel and Iran. Basically, Trump is saying, I am going to go in and I am going to do the bomb, and we control the skies. We don't control anything, right? Israel is doing all the work right now. He's taking credit for it. Not very nice, but he's taking credit for it. And that's what he's doing right now. And it seems to be working. Thank you very much. But is he actually going to commit US forces in Iran? That's not going to happen. There's no need for that. Is he going to drop the bomb or a bunch of bombs to? Probably not, because his base does not want him to do that. If you voted for Trump, you voted for low taxes, you voted for tariffs, and you voted, do not get me involved in another war. It doesn't work. Remember Iraq? Right? Let them deal with their own thing, right? Maybe you help out Israel with some sky things and making sure they don't bomb the wrong people. What is the war about? The war between Israel and Iran is essentially about the fact that Iran said they want to destroy Israel and they are building an atomic bomb. And I will tell you that very recently, from my information, as of June 12, 2025, the IAEA said that Iran was in non-compliance with its obligation, which was the first time in 20 years. Basically, they were just, we got to build the bomb. Let's build the bomb, and then we're gonna do something with it. We don't know exactly what. I'm going to release it on Israel. It's never going to happen. But the point is, that's what they were doing. They were trying to build this bomb as fast as they can because they knew this was going to happen. How did they know? Listen, if I know, right? If you see what Israel did with Gaza, right? Not a pretty sight. But they didn't stop there. Then they said, let me look at Lebanon. Whoa, what are you doing over there? Well, Hezbollah doesn't like us. Kick the crap out of them. And then after that, they went to Syria. So this is not something that they get up in the morning and say, hey, what if we do that? This is a planned operation. And the reason I know they were planned operation is that for Hezbollah people, I mean, these people were walking around with their beepers and they blew up in their, how do you think? That takes months to plan. This thing was planned months long. Plus, don't forget, Netanyahu, frankly, is not going to say no, because the more bombing he does, the more attack, the more he protects Israel, the better he's going to look. So this thing is going to last. He doesn't need Trump. The only thing is, obviously, Trump is getting in there because he wants the limelight and is saying, okay, well, let me see what I could do here. Well, maybe you guys should stop and we control the skies and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. He's not going to do anything. Okay? Do not be fooled for a second. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I will tell you exactly what's happening, right? And so you could understand and walk around like someone that, because I'm at the end of the day, I did a bunch of things. I'm also an educator, and I want to educate you and explain to you what's going on. Having traveled the world, right? If you look at the previous video, I was in the south of France recently. I give my opinion, and the reason I'm able to give you my opinion is because I know what's happening and I understand, right? So what's he want on doing, and what does he want? Well, what does he want? Trump? Well, basically, what Trump wants, he simply wants to to be relevant. He's a showman, right? He wants to make sure that Israel doesn't take all the limelight, because right now, frankly, I'm not so sure that Israel actually. I'm not so sure that Israel went in there with Trump authorization. I think they did it, and he was kind of all right. So all right, well, you were supposed to do 60 days, and the 61st day. So this was all planned, guys. I'm involved in the process, and I'm in control of it. Netanyahu. I don't think so. Remember that Netanyahu's brother got killed. He was a special op guy, and he got killed during the raid of Entebbe. Take a look at the movie. He got killed. So Netanyahu is a tough guy, and he wants to stay in power. You may like it, or may not like it. And the more he kicks butt, and the more this one he's doing in Iran, Israel is not going to say. No one in Israel is going to say no. That's not a good idea, right? He's going to do it, and he's going to keep doing it until there's nothing left. And this is going to take a while. Now, what else? What else do you need to be concerned about? Well, the second thing you need to be concerned today, and this is impact. It doesn't matter where you are. Today, the federal, he wants to know that he's a man. Yeah, basically that's what he's saying, Betty. He's basically saying, hey, I'm relevant here. I'm the man, okay? And I can do everything, and I decide on everything. Now, don't forget, he's a showman. And that's just that. Yes, correct. That's what Trump is about. Now, the next thing you need to worry about. The next thing you need to worry about is today the Federal Reserve is going to basically say whether or not they're going to raise the rates. And we will win, though. Yeah, of course we'll win. I mean, Iran, Iran, Iran is not going to win this thing. It's impossible. I mean, they have no more air force. They have no more satellite. They may have a bunch of missiles, but then I don't know if you notice, the missiles are getting less and less and less and less and less. Okay. And then now he's bombing even the television. You see that woman that was talking? Then the thing fell on her head and everything else. So, this thing is going to happen. So the Fed today is going to be talking. The Fed today is going to be talking, and they're going to say whether or not they're going to raise the rate. Now, this is important for the entire world, right? Because the dollar is a U.S. currency. I know, Betty. It's very upsetting. The US is a world currency, right? Meaning that's a reserve currency, meaning that everybody needs to use the dollar, right? And therefore, whatever the Fed is going to say or do, it's going to have an impact on the currency and everything else, right? And so basically what the Fed is going to do today is going to do nothing. And the reason why the Fed is going to do nothing is very simple. It's because they don't want to lower the rates. Because if they lower the rates, it's going to have an impact on everything, right? They don't want to lower the rates at all. Because if they lower the rates, it will have an impact on inflation. And inflation is not under control according to them. So therefore, they're not going to, in fact, they may want to raise the rates. I mean, they're not going to do that. That'd be crazy. So the Fed is going to do the following. They're going to say, I am not going to do anything because of what's happening in Iran in war, because obviously oil prices are going up, and we don't know when this thing is going to end, right? Because, I mean, it's okay for oil prices to go up a little bit. They have gone up 10%. But if they stay up like that, that's going to have an impact on the GDP. That's going to have an impact on the economy. There is a high correlation, trust me now, believe me later, there's a high correlation between the oil prices and a recession. Okay. Now, are these oil prices going to stay up for a while? Well, yeah. I mean, as long as they keep fighting, and then the Iranians say, no, I'm not giving up. In fact, today the guys say, I'm not giving up. In fact, if you keep fucking me, and if they go in there, there's going to be a problem. He said he's going to do something, but believe he will do it next. I voted him 2 times because no one in America over our leaders saying we're going to do that. Well, you're right. I mean, one thing about Trump you can't deny, besides surviving a bunch of killings, he also said that he was going to do certain things, and he's doing them. He's doing them. That's what he was brought in. I mean, he's not lying. You wanted him to to basically do the tariffs, do the taxes, and all that, and no forever war. He's doing it. Okay. Anyways, so the Fed is not going to do anything because it doesn't make any sense for them to do anything right now because they're saying, I don't know what the tariff is going to do. I don't know what's going to happen with the war and the oil prices. Therefore, we're going to stay put. Now, of course, you might say, oh, come on. Look at the numbers, right? If I look at some of the recent numbers that I saw, I will tell you, for example, that in May, we created in the U.S. $139,000 jobs. Yeah, well, that is below the 12-month average of 149,000. So technically, things are started to slow down, and you don't like things slowing down, my friends. Okay, what else is going on? Well, oil prices are up. That's a concern, right? So all these things that don't bode well for a recession, right? So if there is a recession, therefore you should be lowering the rates. The Michigan sentiment is up, but that's because everybody thought the tariff tensions were over. So oil prices and the Fed right now, two big topics. But frankly, my understanding is nothing is going to happen with the Fed. They're not going to do anything. And the tariffs, quite frankly, you know what? There's 3 weeks less for those tariffs. Remember, in August, in April, when the market went crazy, and he said basically, you got your info in front of you? Yes. I got all my information right here. I am learning every day and I'm teaching you. That's what I'm doing. I want my subscribers to know what's happening. I want you to be informed. And so don't forget to subscribe so at least you know when I'm going live and you know what is happening. I'm not dreaming this stuff. I'm working this stuff. I'm teaching this stuff. Now, as far as the tariffs are concerned, we have 3 weeks left before the end of the 90 days. Remember when he said, okay, I was going to do 145% tariffs on the entire world. I'm going to just do it for 90 days. We're not going to do anything so we can negotiate. The 90 days are up in 3 weeks. So what does that mean? Well, so what have you done in the past 2 months? One deal with the UK and maybe looks like a deal with China, although we haven't signed anything yet. And even that, China is saying, whoa, hold on. I have a deal, but this is a 6-month deal, right? And don't forget, the deal with China involves the rare minerals. You may not know what rare minerals are, but what that is the minerals, a bunch of weird little names that you don't need to know about, but this is the stuff that goes into iPhones, that goes into batteries, and that goes into weapons. They go into weapons, and because without the weapons, you can without the minerals, you don't have the weapons. Yeah, the world was hit with them for 50 to 60 years. I totally agree. So you're not gonna have much change in the next 3 weeks out of 100 deals. But the point as far as the tariffs are concerned, my friends, I will tell you that regardless of what it is, the entire world has been blanketed with 10% tariffs from the US. China has 30% tariffs. There's 50% steel tariffs, 25% on autos. Canada has 25% tariffs. Last year was nothing, right? Now, of course, you're going to say, well, Trump is creating trouble, Well, yeah, he doesn't have much time, quite frankly. He's 79 years old, by the way, Doesn't smoke, doesn't drink. But, he's 79 years old. There's only a year and a half left with the Republican in Congress. So he's got to move quick. Now, do you need to coerce people into doing things? Maybe you should try to negotiate. But do you have that kind of time? How much time do you have to negotiate, really? So regardless of what happens right now, money is coming in. Money is coming in. $72 billion of tariffs are coming in, up 81%. This year, $156 billion is going to come up. which is going to be 0.5% GDP, unless those countries are saying, you know what, we don't want to deal with the US. The thing is, and that's what happened with Canada recently, yesterday they were in Canada, the G7, what's happening is then they don't want to disagree with Trump. Don't forget to subscribe. They don't want to disagree with Trump, but they don't want to agree with him either in front of their people. So because they're going to say, "What, you bend it to his will, right? This guy with the yellow hair." So they're basically not doing anything. In the meanwhile, they're paying. So you have a deal basically in effect. Do you think in 3 weeks from now, when the 90 days are off, they're going to say, you know what, we're going to tax the US 100%? I don't think so, because they know exactly what he's going to do. He's crazy, and he's going to do it. So basically, they kind of have a deal without being written, and they keep paying. That's all it is. Europe especially, there's no way you're going to get these people to agree. Europe is a bunch of merchants put together, okay? So that's the situation with the tariffs, and I think that the tariffs are going to go on the way they are, frankly. Now, of course, some people are saying, wait, no, it's not going to happen because the courts went after the tariffs, and they're basically saying that this is illegal and you shouldn't be doing that. Listen, I look at the numbers, I look at the legal documents. It's going to take a while. He has many avenues to keep this thing going. So yeah, you want to believe that they're gonna rescind everything and send the money back? Come on, it's crazy. Those tariffs are here to stay, and they're gonna stay like this for a while. And they're gonna keep collecting money. Now, the next thing that you're gonna know. Thanks for the hearts, by the way, and don't forget to subscribe and like this channel. The next thing you need to worry about is the fact that we have a situation with the economy. The economy in the U.S. is going weak, but more importantly, the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about, although they are kind of talking more and more, is the national debt. Now, the economy is weakening. You're not seeing it yet. And the reason it's weakening is because, well, there's uncertainty everywhere. And whenever there's uncertainty, nobody don't do anything. And if you don't do anything, then you don't invest and you don't hire, then it brings everything down. That's a problem. That's a question, okay? So, but the thing that no one is talking about is the national debt, $37 trillion. That's a huge amount of money. Why is this a huge amount of money? Because there's never been that high. Why is this a problem? Because you're not ever going to be able to pay it back. But that's okay. Just keep borrowing more money to repay the old money. Yes, the only thing is, because the U.S. also has a trade deficit, the trade deficit and the fiscal deficit together don't do well. And that's a concern. If you're in the U.S. and you're working, that is a concern because your job might be at stake. Why? Because the U.S. might not be able to refinance this thing forever. Now, of course, what the U.S. is going to do, and they have to do it, they are just going to print money to. That's what they've done. It's called quantitative easing. They're going to print money to pay back the debt that they owe. But as you're printing this, you're impacting the dollar. So the dollar is going to get. What I'm giving you right now, people, this is an MBA level stuff. This is free education for you, okay? Entertaining, maybe, but it's free education. And this is very valuable, trust me. Because it's going to help you understand what's going on in the world that you're living in. And more importantly, keep you away from social media that tends to cater to what they think you want, but it's more important as what they want. And I don't want that for you. I want you to understand what's happening. That is key. So what's going on with the debt is that the Fed is going to have, and in fact they've started doing it. I'll do another video on that more in detail. But they've started doing that. They started buying back the debt slowly, 20 billion here, 10 billion there. Because don't forget, there is $9 trillion due this year. 6 of it in the first 6 months, very soon. It's gone, get up, gone, boom. It's not careful, be safe. We say there, man. Talk to you. Right? You have to be careful because what's going to happen is you're not going to be able to pay back that debt. So what you're doing right now, you're creating new debt, but you're buying it yourself. You're eating your own Kool-Aid. And that's a problem. You don't want to do that. because that's going to weaken the currency. Now, one thing that Trump hasn't said, but be careful, he may actually say at one point, and you heard it here first, he might say, you know what, I'm not paying back this debt. Forget it, right? What are you going to do about it? I mean, that would be crazy things to do. Because what's happening with you got the 37 trillion, but then, and this is going to impact you if you're in the US, they are coming with the big, beautiful bill. Now, the big, beautiful bill, this is not a joke. This is actually how it is called. This is not a fake name. The BBOA there is an actual name of this bill. I can't believe that he actually named it like this. Probably, it's a slap at what people are saying, but that's what they're doing. Will the big, beautiful get through the Senate? Because that's a question right now. Is it going to go through the Senate? And it's going to have to go through the Senate. Why? Because if it doesn't, then taxes are going to go up in the US, and they don't want that. But if it goes through the Senate, then what's going to happen is the amount of debt is going to go up, and it's going to go up by a lot. In fact, if I look at my numbers, we had $37 trillion, right? We are looking by another $2.7 trillion, another $3.8 trillion of the deficit is going to be added. That's a lot. But, they're going to lower taxes, they're going to increase medical care, they're going to increase defense and things like that. And obviously that's the reason why Elon Musk said, what the hell are you doing? I did all that work for you guys trying to save you money, and now you're doing all these things that's going to cost money, and I don't like it. I don't want it that way. I want to make sure that we're trying to save money, and that's why you had this fight with Elon Musk. He went away very quickly. I don't know if you noticed. Elon Musk is gone. The point right now is, and the reason Musk didn't like it is because there was too much pork in it, okay? So what's the deal with the BBA, the big beautiful bill and the debt? The big beautiful bill is going to have more debt. Of course, the big beautiful bill, people are saying, no, it's not, because we're going to have the tariffs that are going to come in. I told you, 2.7 trillion. It's going to offset that 3.8, so it's okay. But all these things, people, you're not going to see them for a while. So right now, the question for you is, so what is the bottom line? How is that going to impact me ultimately? Well, the way it's going to impact you is, frankly, rates are going to stay up, right? Because a lot of people are selling treasuries in order for it to do it. The debt is all set off. What they think we owe them is a loan millionaire 1,000 and going to expect 10,000 back. Of course, that's a problem. Is it really necessary? We shall see. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, people. Don't forget to subscribe and like it. That is more important for me to keep it going. So, ultimately, what I believe is going to happen is the Senate is going to pass the bill. Otherwise, they're going to be crucified. It's going to be a bloodletting. And then, of course, what is going to happen is the fact that they will be able to do it. Okay? What's going on here? Do I have... Are you guys hearing me? Are you hearing me, or is there a problem with sound? Okay. Because I thought there was a problem with my... Yeah, okay, this should be much better. So that's the second thing. So the beautiful bill is going to go through. The rates are going to go up, and it's going to be a big problem. As long as we're able to refinance, it is not a problem. But at some point, though, my concern is that the market is going to say you got too much, you owe too much money. So what does that mean? At some point, and we saw it. I don't know if you noticed it, and this is for those of you who understand. Take a look at the 10-year Treasury. Take a look at the 10-year Treasury, and that's the one that if it gets close to 5%, we're in big trouble, right? That is the only thing. That is the only thing that the Fed basically. That's what stopped Trump in April. What stopped Trump? The rate, the Treasury yield, the 10-year yield went up, and it went up, and it reached almost 5%. And you say, okay, you know what? Let's do a 90-day break. I was planning on this anyway, because whoa, and then the market can come down, everything. But this is a concern with the market. The concern, don't forget, you don't have a crisis because the stock market goes down. No, what you need to worry about is liquidity. Liquidity is what caused 2008. Liquidity is what caused 2020. Remember 2020 liquidity? What do I mean by that? Nobody could go to work. Nobody could do anything. So there was no money. So there was no money in the system. So that's why they had to flood the money in the system. Why don't they nationalize the Fed and abolish our debt? You know what? This is actually a good point, Charles. No, I'm serious. Because the most successful economist, right, stated that we really don't need the Fed, right? We don't need the Federal Reserve. In fact, all they should be doing is they should just monitor the money supply, and that's all they should be doing. They shouldn't be in charge of rates and the economy and inflation and all that. They should just keep things going the way they are. Because quite frankly, and I was there, made a lot of money then, but I was there in 2008 when basically the Fed said, what housing crisis? Take a look at the book by DiMartino called Fed Up. She was there, and she's going to tell you that basically they didn't know what was going on. There's no housing crisis. They missed the boat completely. Now, the reason why the Fed has such power is because the dollar has a lot of power. And the reason the dollar has power is because the dollar is a reserve currency, right? And it has been a reserve currency since World War II. Be careful, because now we're entering a different topic altogether. Could we have another war? Because in World War II, the UK was all powerful, but they had so much debt, they lost all their power. And the US said, from now on, I am the big guy, I'm in charge, you're going to use my currency. And that's what they did since 1945. I'm doing good. I mean, just trying to do different things, right? Trying to compete with all these people saying all stupid thing online. But I've been doing this for 3 years. I don't care. I like doing it. I mean, I like teaching. The thing is, what's going to happen is, so you had the Federal Reserve. You had the 1945. We did the rates, right? Great. Then in 1971, because don't forget, at that time, believe it or not, you may not remember or may not even know about it, but at that time the dollar was backed by gold. I think it was by a certain amount of gold. I forgot how much. Right? Each dollar had a couple of grams of gold, right? But then in 1971, the U.S. said, you know what? We're so big, we're so bad, we don't even need gold to back us up. Oh, so then you could just print dollars? Exactly. And you know what? It worked. The U.S. was able to print dollars and print more dollars, and it worked. And then the U.S. became more powerful. And then obviously the Fed, right? They could decide, they got even more powerful because they could decide rates. And obviously rates impact the dollar. And since it's a reserve currency, since it was a reserve currency, it is a reserve currency, then you have no choice but to go buy dollars. I mean, if you go in the middle of the jungle, right, and you want to buy a train, and you give them cruceros from Brazil, nobody's going to take it. But if you bring them $1 million, they'll sell it to you, just because of the paper it is printed on. But be careful, Fed. If you keep printing dollars to pay your own debt, that is not going to be a good thing over a long period of time. Subscribe to this channel and like this video, please. Thank you. It was a smoke screen. Yes, it was. So the Fed right now, is it really helpful? because the thing is, right? Suppose right now the economy is actually doing bad, right? And we don't see it yet. Of course, you don't see it because you're going to see it. You're going to see people losing their jobs, next month, right? You don't see everything right away. And the Fed says, you know what? I don't like Trump anyway, and I'm gonna wait to see what the tariffs are gonna be. I want to wait until what happened with the war. So I'm not gonna do anything. Well, you could have lowered the rates to facilitate, to make sure people start spending money, and you're not going to do that. You're going to wait and wait and wait, purposely making things worse for the economy. But that's the kind of power they have, right? Rates should be set naturally, should not be by some guy that's supposed to be independent. Do you think he's independent? Do you really think that power likes Trump that much? The guy wants him out. Okay, he hates him. He's a douchebag. He doesn't want him. He's got another year to go. Trump cannot get rid. He cannot get rid of him. He cannot get way to get rid of him. So that is a situation with the national debt, and that is very important, because if that is not under control, then everything is going to unravel. Now, of course, remember I mentioned World War II, Bretton Woods, and the Fed and the dollar becoming all powerful. I hate to say it, and it's going to be my final thoughts on this, is so what happens next? Trump will be the best president we ever had. Well, one thing, he does say what he means, and he means what he says, but he says a lot of different things. And he doesn't mean all the things that he says. So he is all over the place, right? So, the thing is, what you need to understand is China, Iran and Israel was just waiting to happen, right? I'm assuming everybody has to agree to that. Ukraine and Russia, this was just about to happen. You keep getting closer and closer and closer to Russia, right? Eventually they're going to say, you're too close. Look at the U.S. U.S. doesn't like Cuba, where it is with full of Russians. So imagine, Ukraine with it. So they said enough is enough. And of course, people are going to tell you, no, they went in because they wanted to invade Ukraine. Well, we shall see. The things that you need to worry about, there's also another thing that's brewing. Taiwan and China. Or China and Taiwan, right? Why do you care? Well, you need to care because right now, Trump with 145% tariffs and now 30% tariffs is basically coercing China in doing the thing that he wants them to do. China is not Iran. China is not Russia. China is China. China is building a lot of stuff very well, as we know. They're building everything, including chips, semiconductors, and pharmaceutical, and also, which you may not realize, weapons. China is building a lot of weapons, and is building it faster than the U.S. So be careful, because the U.S. has about a week worth of missiles. Can they keep on going it? Can they keep poking at that bear? Because don't forget, when you're charging China 30%, then they're making less money over there. If they're making less money, their people are going to go hungry and they're going to lose their jobs. They say, great, well, hold on. Because their people get pissed enough and they turn towards the government is going to say, no, it's not my fault. It's the big devil. It's the U.S. Therefore, we're going to go after the U.S., right? The way we're going to do it is very simple. Here's a match. Psh, we're going to get into Taiwan. And then what is Trump going to do then? So you got lots of moving plates here. Like I'm just trying to give you a bit of a overall explanation of everything that's going on in the world, which is a little bit complicated right now, but it's happening as we speak. It's happening as we speak. And it's very just, you say they depend on us for money for their food. Well, they are, even though the China has been reducing their control and their dependency on the U.S., they're still highly dependent on the U.S. right now, right? Exactly. So you can't just lose the U.S. Now, you should know also that where China is, the circle of Ari Pieris, which is basically 10% of a landmass, 50% of the people live there. They're not really trading with each other yet. They're really mostly trading with the US. And why did they trade with the US? It's very simple, right? They basically wanted to take all the information from the US. You know, when they go to China to make iPhone, they take a look at the iPhone, they copied. When Tesla went to China to make the Teslas, what do you think they did? Now they have this company called BYD, and they're doing a pretty good copy of Tesla as well. You know, how much of it did they steal? Toshiba, for example, in the years back, stole information from submarines. I mean, China has been saying, yeah, come deal with me so I could take everything and I could make it myself. But now I don't need you anymore. Thank you, goodbye. I'm going to deal. Taiwan needs to be moved, their industry to USA. Yeah, but this is the next thing that's going to blow up. I mean, why would it blow up? Why would China go into war with the US? Well, because they're not able to sustain their government, and now and because the people are pissed. I think what happened with China is Trump came in too soon. They were taking all the technology, they were basically stealing the technology from the US as much as they could, according to Stephen Fisher, which was a guy from a big guy over at the Fed. Again, read Dean Martino Booth's book on Richard Fisher, that was his name. And he said basically that, yeah, they stole everything from us and now they're doing it better than we do. Right? I mean, is that a good thing? Well, there's a lot of things happening, and I'll do another video tomorrow, more concentrated, I think, and more live on. I want to do the big beautiful bill to explain what's happening with the big beautiful bill because it's coming through Congress right now. So my concern is that at some point China got pissed enough, and there was an interaction with Trump, and they invite Taiwan, but they're not going to do that unless they really have to, right? Unless they don't get the money they want from the US, or the US doesn't deal with them, and they have a deal with China, but quite frankly, how much of a deal is that? So my friend, be careful of the following things. A, watch what's happening to the big beautiful bill. B, take a look at the 10-year Treasury yield. If it gets close to 5, be careful. The US stock market is not doing that great. I hate to tell you, it's back up, but it hasn't done well at all. Spain is doing better, Italy is doing better, all these other places are doing better. The thing with Iran and Iraq, don't worry too much about it. They're getting their butt kicked. Nobody's going to come to help them out. Nobody liked them to begin with, even among the Muslim and the Arab world. So they're done with. The question is, you know, are other people going to be enough of a regime change? It's going to take a while, but Trump is not going to get in there. There's no reason. So watch for all these spots, because obviously it's going to impact your money, it's going to impact your jobs, and depending where you are, like if you're in Europe, I was there not too long ago, it's a bit of a mess over there right now. I mean, the US, you may complain about the US, but the US is still the most safest. I mean, for some people at least, but at least it is. It has a system of government, right? What question would you like to answer? Ask me, Betty. The question is, the U.S. is a system of government and is lucky because the founding fathers, right? You're talking about Washington. You're talking about John Adams, Jefferson. These were very, very, quote unquote, great people in that they had a chance to have a new country, a brand new country, and they were able to build it. They were able to set it up. And these were people, smart people. Don't forget, and I'm going to end with that. When George Washington got reelected twice and he wanted a third time, he said, no, I don't want to be president anymore, right? I don't want to be president anymore. And he went back to become a farmer. And that was George Washington. And when he heard that, the guy from the King of England said, I want to meet this George Washington. He could have been emperor, and he decided to not to be. So these are the type of people that founded the US. Thomas Jefferson, I mean, John Adams, watch the movie John Adams. You'll see at the end When his term ends, he gets into his truck and he leaves Washington like a regular person. He did his job and he's gone. So the U.S. and then there are these laws that were the U.S. is a country of laws. So and it's got lots of people, lots of resources. So when people say, "Oh, the U.S. is not going to be a reserve currency," well, tell me who else is going to be a reserve currency? The euro? That's never going to. I am buying Bitcoin for short-term investment, no mortgage, of no. Yes, and the reason why Bitcoin is becoming more and more important, like gold, is because they're concerned that the dollar is losing its currency, is losing its potency. These are worrying signs, my friends. In 10 years, 20 years from now, who knows where we're going to be, but things are going to be very different. Peace out. Don't forget to subscribe. I shall be back tomorrow.